Good afternoon and welcome to Flat Earth United Kingdom. Joining me this afternoon is Nick of Phuket Word. How are you doing, Nick?
Good, thanks, Nathan. Nice to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you here. As you've just mentioned, I've already interviewed you once, and as before we started, it's just going to be a nice, easy chit chat. So.
Great. I mean, that was at least a year ago, wasn't it? I think I can't remember the date, but
it's probably more than a year ago. It's probably about 18 months, I guess. Maybe you were one of my earlier guests, one of the first. So yeah, it's going back some. In Flat Earth years, it's like 10 years.
A lot's happened. Yeah.
And that's it, exactly. Yeah, a lot has happened. A lot of beliefs have changed. A lot of proofs have come out, and a lot of them, for me, have come from you, which is why I've got you on, because you've been doing such amazing work recently.
Well, thanks. Obviously, yeah. There's a lot more to do once you get to the flat Earth stage. It's there's a lot more to come. It still becomes clearer and clearer every day. But obviously, I suppose more clearer what we don't know is what's really becoming apparent now. Okay, this is what we don't know. This is what we need to find out. And so yeah, there's a lot to do for sure.
When I started watching your stuff when you were looking at sunspots way back when.
Okay.
I've got to be honest, I can't actually remember what it was demonstrating so long ago.
Well, obviously from here, from Phuket, I see the moon come up from the east and go overhead and go off to the west. It's just a straight overhead thing. And of course, when it reaches its zenith, I have to turn around. You know, you watch it come up like that and then turn around and watch it go down. So you get this flip in your view. It's just the one flip to a completely opposite, the shadow and everything else. It just obviously flips in your field of view as you turn around. And watching the sun, I spotted sunspots. I was trying out some filters, spotted sunspots, and then filmed them every hour. I started in the morning as the sun came up and watched them every hour. So again, obviously the same thing, because I'm near the equator, the sun goes overhead. So I basically got the sunspots staying in the same place on the sun. Let's say that we're at the 6 o'clock position on the sun. If the sun was a clock, these spots were at a 6 o'clock position or something. So once it went overhead, I had to do the same thing as I did with the moon, turn around, watch it go off to the west. And what you see is obviously exactly the same thing as with the moon. The sunspots have gone from the 6 o'clock position to the 12 o'clock position, just like the moon will have gone with the kind of rabbit ears on the top and then appearing on the bottom. So that was a very significant thing, that they both behaved in exactly the same way as far as observing them, considering that they're supposed to be vastly different. You know, the moon is supposed to be in a 28-day orbit and it's fixed, and we kind of apparently are seeing it because we're rolling past it. But then, the sun doing exactly the same thing was, okay. It made sense with the flat Earth model that we know of. And then watching the same thing from the UK, observing the moon, and other people sending in their information from around the world. We've got people in America, Italy, other places who have sent photos of the moon. I've never correlated them all into a video, but you basically get a sense of what the moon's doing for different people. So obviously in the west or the east, north or south of the equator, then the moon will appear to roll across the sky. In New Zealand, it does quite a dramatic. It kind of stays in a relatively stationary kind of position as it comes round. But then there's this kind of large rotation as it goes away. So you get a kind of build up a picture of what the moon is looking like for people north and south of the equator. And of course, I went back to the UK and I filmed the sun as well, doing its thing across the sky, not going overhead, of course. And again, observing exactly the same thing. The sun rolls across the sky just as the moon rolls across the sky when viewed from the UK. Or I had another guy called Bo who contributed a lot of his own footage as well, doing the same experiments and getting the same or similar results. So yeah, it just says to me that both are local. The sun and the moon are local, and they appear to be doing what the flat Earth model says that they do. But it also leads me to look at them in a way that maybe we're not looking at fiery balls in the sky. The sun seems to me now appears to be just a focal point of light. That's the best way I can describe it from what I can ascertain from looking at it and just watching it move. The moon, all I know it
very much contrary to what you said on my video where I asked what the sun was. I think you said something like, being a believer in Newtonian gravity absolutely must be spherical, I think was your answer.
Forgive me. Look up my notes. Yeah. Well, yeah, it has to be. That's one of the things, isn't it? You know, the whole ball thing. I mean, for the mathematician, they all have to be balls. And then they can make them any size or any density in a certain volume that they like. And you get your mathematical formula. You want to say that the sun's big and it's got lots of mass. Well, okay, we'll do that. And we'll say it's a certain volume with a certain density. Therefore, its mass is this much. And the moon, the sun, etc., the Earth, sorry, is this much. So you can very clearly see how that has been just put together mathematically to fit. And okay, you want to make the sun closer or and smaller. Okay, we can do that with some maths. So that was obviously one of the steps, I suppose, or one of the realizations that there's a big difference to what we're shown and what our reality is when we actually go and look. So yeah, that was quite intense for me. That sold it for me. That was my personal confirmation, affirmation that there is truth to, you know, the whole flat Earth idea.
Well, you used two words there. One was looking in the true sense of the word, and the other was reality. And when it comes to reality, you've described it in terms of maths, but that's usually coupled with a whole load of bullshit images of fiery balls presented, you know, at nausea through people like NASA. And therefore, the image of a heliocentric universe is one that's really in our mind. It's certainly not in our view.
Absolutely. And it's actually very, very difficult to get that, to really put the whole thing aside. You kind of, I think you put it aside piecemeal, but you're still for a long, long time imagining that, well, the sun's going to be a ball. You know, they're all balls up there, right? You know, however close or big or whatever they are. But, you know, eventually you can really shed all of that programming there of having, yes, like you say, a picture of what it looks like up there. We don't have any real pictures, none whatsoever. It's all in our heads.
But what we do have is a very good set of eyes. And one of the beautiful things about your channel, and it's very, very difficult to replicate, is putting across an idea that's quite complex in a very simplistic way. And that's something that you've just got a knack for. You know, I couldn't find it. I've brought up a few videos. I may or may not share them in this show. We'll see how it goes. But the one was with the lighters. Maybe if you can just talk us through what you were demonstrating.
Just that whole thing that, you know, how perspective works and something of equal size, whether it's street lamps, etc. So yeah, lighters was a perfect example. It was a perfect way to show lighters horizontally across the screen, not doing anything. And but looking at them, you could see them apparently decreasing in size. and you can see where the horizon would have been. So yeah, just a demonstration of perspective. And then of course putting the last lighter up a bit higher, but it's still appearing to be as low or lower than the lighters closer to us. So yeah, just to demonstrate really how yeah, that's the curve. That's the curve that we all think people think we see. Perspective is the curve. It's just, you look at the maths and you see the people that are arguing for the ball as well, and we all know they will not go there. It's like the flat earther being afraid to mention the word gravity. You know, the ballers have got this aversion to the word perspective, and will go as far as saying it's the sun shrinking. But no, so this has been I mean, it's just from, you know, talking about this with people and trying to, usually these videos come about after long conversations with or an argument, and then seeing what they're not seeing, trying to understand what it is that's blocking people from really seeing what they see. And of course, yeah,
assuming that those kind of conversations are more like barroom conversations, because you say seeing what they're seeing. I can imagine it's actually in a conversation like this where you've described the lighters, where someone describes a heliocentric idea. They're not actually going to take you out to the edge of a balcony and point out the moon and say, this is how it does what it's doing, with you actually looking at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Trying out of sheer frustration, trying to find a way to illustrate what is going on. It's difficult to know whether are there some people that just really cannot see it? I don't know.
Again, you summed it up earlier when you said the word programming. We've been programmed with an idea. Right. So we've got it in our mind's eye, and it's not a question of being able to see it, because we're almost told. I was told by James Panda on a debate recently that, you know, you can't trust your senses. That's what he told me, you know, and then he went on to say that, you know, the best representation we have of space is NASA, and it's an experience. And, you know, that's what he was telling me, that essentially he was more happy to take the 2D impression that NASA presented with him over and above his own senses.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that someone would actually say that, that you can't.
I'm paraphrasing, so he didn't say it as succinctly as that.
Okay, but that's the general thing. Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, you've got a different viewpoint because of your location. So I mean, maybe for people who aren't watching, fill us in on where exactly you are geographically, and, you know, how long you've been there, and how that changes your viewpoint by virtue of other people's understanding about the shape of the Earth.
Okay, yeah. Phuket in southern Thailand, not too far from Malaysia and the border and the equator, and been here since early 20s, and settled down and tried my very best to integrate into the culture. I had to, because I had to, you know, if you wanted to eat, I had to speak the language. Thais don't speak English much in certain places, you know, outside of the city where I was to start with. So yeah, fascinating. It's always been fascinating. And of course you obviously, if you try to fit in with a culture, then you're going to learn things about yourself. You're going to see how you react in certain situations, because you're going to be that much more focused on situations. You can kind of imagine some of the difficult situations you might get into where you haven't been able to say where you want to go on a bus, and you end up in the middle of nowhere, you know. You just not having a clue where you are, and not being able to speak to anyone. So you've got to get through these things, and kind of, you know, I suppose you're faced with these situations which are life-changing and make you analyze your own upbringing. You know, you can't integrate into another culture until you at least recognize and possibly discard the baggage that you brought with you. And that takes years. It takes a long time. I think my first couple of chatty flat Earth videos were were trying to explain this and kind of this understanding, again, appealing to all these kind of very nasty defenders of the globe, you know, hey, flat earthers have got a point. They're thinking about something, you know, they're using their intelligence and stuff. But trying to explain that it can take many, many years to even recognize the habits, the thought patterns and reactions you've developed over a lifetime. If you're 20 years old, that's, you know, since birth, you've been conditioned no matter what. Just to say the word ouch when you're in pain is conditioning. You're using the language you were brought up with. You can't help it. So unless you analyze that through being forced to kind of adapt in some way, then often you might not see how that has developed over time. So that was fortunate, you know, to kind of be able to reflect on the things that I thought were proper and correct in my culture, the things that shocked me, the contrasts I saw here, and trying to make sense of it all takes a long time, but eventually you do eventually just, you get to a point of understanding that it doesn't bother you anymore, because it can be very, very frustrating. And of course you eventually realize, well, it's my reaction that's making it frustrating. It's my belief that everything should happen right now or whatever that is causing my frustration. So yeah, I hadn't been near any NASA videos or anything like that for a long time. Being here, no TV, no internet for a long time, just a totally different world, very detached from the Western world. And so obviously when the internet came along, got to know a lot more about all the other conspiracy stuff. And it made sense. You could see the way the cogs work in the world, the global system, this global construct. So having that perspective from here, and also understanding how the Thais or the Asians themselves see Westerners and Europeans, what they make of the culture. Of course, we're all people at the end of the day. You know, there are things that people want, things that people will desire, things that people will fight for, kill for, love for, whatever. You know, of course, if someone's got a flashy car, someone else wants a flashy car. It's just, so this materialism, I've seen the kind of the change from a very kind of down to earth lifestyle to this very global lifestyle, which is full of stress, full of it's just not, you know, the two are compatible. The one thing about Thailand is that you can see the old and the new, the Buddhist roots of the culture is perfect fit for modern culture, you know. So this is wonderful to see that the two, you know, they don't get as a nation, they don't get carried away with total modernization. So they're very much, you're going to get the contrasts of culture, which is always a lovely thing, where if you go to a kind of metropolitan city, it's pointless going to a city that might be in an exotic place, but it's just the same as any other city with, you know, so, however, I'm babbling.
I was going to say, have the ideas of the globe come along, those sorts of Western ideas, is that now filtering in over there?
Of course, whether it's the TV, the internet, or just in schools in general, yes. So again, we see the same, you know, Darwin and the other kind of scientific heroes, science heroes that we've been brought up with are introduced into the education system too. Yeah, but not in such an intense way as it might have been in the UK.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't sound like you get there in your 20s and suddenly start debating the shape of the Earth. It probably never even came up. Am I right?
Not at all. No. But of course, when you're talking about the shape of the Earth, we are talking about the meaning of life and trying to work out what it's all about. So for me, a lot of the, you know, once, you know, flat Earth came along, it made a lot of sense. But so did all the other stuff, the kind of, which according to the Buddhist teachings, it's basically you're born into this life and you've got to work it all out. You've got to, it's easy to, you know, instinctively how things are and what you're kind of on a mission to do something useful, maybe you're, you know, work off your karma or do something for the next generation, you know. But yeah, the shape of the earth doesn't come into it at all. No, because, and that's what I found interesting, is because, you know, obviously apparently knowing something, having something to bite into. Okay, the moon is this far away and it's that size, and Saturn is there and it's this size, and this is how it works, can afford people some kind of something to cling on to, some kind of satisfaction. And it's almost a good enough answer, that as good as you're going to get as an answer to what am I doing here? How did I get here? What's it all about? It's kind of, I suppose, if you're the kind of person that doesn't have a burning desire to find out a little bit more, then that might be just fine to, okay, I've got my understanding of where I am, what I am, who I am. And of course, we understand that that's been, you know, that's intentionally done, and you might feel comfortable in that position, and you don't want to be woken up. You don't want to be shaken awake out of your nice little slumber. You get your steak, you get your 3 meals a day, you've got real, you know, you've got a job that you like and you go to it, and it gives you some regularity, keeps you away from. So for a lot of people, it's yeah, this all goes with it. It's a comfort zone.
It's an interesting parallel that you said, that people are getting a bit more materialistic if the guy next door's got a nice car and so on. Well, yeah. if that's the case there, it stands to reason that that's as a direct consequence of heliocentric indoctrination, on account of the fact that in the heliocentric system, matter is your god.
Very good point. Yes. I mean, it is all connected. We know that, don't we? It's kind of the whole global commercial construct that is trade at the end of the day, for material items. Yeah, it's and that, yeah, it really is a total, it is a world in itself. It really is. Actually, it's fine as a globe if you just, okay, off you, there you go, have your heliocentric lifestyle, and do all that stuff, get carried away with all the fantasy, but then, you know, pop back down to earth when you're ready, and you know, realize that, you know, the essential things in life that we need are free and should be, and we can all get by doing that, by implementing that. So yeah, I'm very keen to kind of take steps in that direction, where there's a, you know, there's more work being done towards yeah, things like free energy, or alternative forms of energy from frequencies, from these kind of things. It's part and parcel of flat Earth, I think, and there's a limit to how much time you can spend trying to tell others all about it. Often I feel kind of preaching to the converted, you know. So the videos are really for trying to get other people who don't get it yet, and this is what we see. And
when you are having those sorts of conversations on a one-to-one level, I get the impression from some of your video logs that you've just had a blazing row with somebody. You know, you've just literally.
Yeah, it's just frustration. Yeah, just kind of, oh, come on! It should have been a kathunk moment. It should have been something that just kind of boop, but no, boop, you glaze over it, and it's
So what are you coming up against then? What are the things that you're finding frustrating when you're trying to explain these concepts to people?
It is a lot of it is, but like perspective, it really is. You know, the same argument where if you're seeing it going down that way and you're saying it's a curve, then where's the curve that way? You know, yes, you can make the bottom of something disappear at 10 meters, just the same as a ship disappears. It's always been that kind of trying to show that it just happens. So
what I might do is actually show one of your perspective videos, just because I think I've got the one with the straws or chopsticks, I think it was, but I'll see if I can bring that up.
All right, it's certainly not that one with the spinning globe.
There we go. I won't put the audio on. I'll just actually play it, and then if you can just explain what you've set up here, if that's cool by you. Can you see what I'm seeing?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so we've got your chopsticks.
Yeah, chopsticks and straws. I think they're all placed evenly, and I just wanted to demonstrate how the surface always appears to rise up, and also how when we are low to the surface, it's very condensed, and so this is why we quickly get a horizon shortly in front of us, because just onto the next red table, there's two tables there, and obviously the red table looks very short. I raise up and it kind of, yeah, it expands. So I was just trying to show this is what happens to the surface when you rise up. We're not looking down a curve, we are just seeing the surface. So we can see right to the end of the table, but obviously this is where we get this band of convergence and everything's kind of melding together. I think I'm pointing out here that, yeah, early on that you can see a decent amount of spacing between the chopsticks, but over distance they appear to get closer together, and of course they just eventually meld into one. You can think of these as waves or just whatever markers on the land, but that's essentially what happens when we rise up. And this is something I tried to demonstrate in one of my first videos. It's like the horizon, you just, that was something I just knew instinctively when I heard it. I think, you know, Eric Dubay mentioned it, and it's like, well, yeah, stupid kind of like making these videos to show this, because isn't it obvious? But apparently not.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, I feel that obvious. You said it as a thunk moment, but yeah, you're kind of talking to someone, you go, why isn't this obvious to you? It's in front of your eyes.
Yeah. So just trying to, again, yeah, that's usually the case. It's and some of those rants are after, yeah, long-winded things. So rather than try to go backwards and forwards in a thing, in a message thing, just make a video and say it, and hopefully it makes some. It's. I think, you know, we all want to say the same things a lot of the time, but someone's just got to stick it in a video and say it, and then you can pass it around and show other people. That's what I think too.
Is it something that you'll do? I mean, do you spend much? I don't know how your online presence is other than on videos. Do you spend much time sharing videos? You mentioned Eric Dubay. Do you share his material around and stuff?
Yeah, occasionally. I've just, you know, I've tried to just really significant ones that maybe make a point. Succinct videos are always good to share. So yeah, because again, it's just trying to put across this information, get this information to people, and they can watch and then they can compare, and I think it's kind of working. It's people are waking up.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that you said earlier where you kind of feel like you're preaching to the converted, but it's never going to be a dam breaking moment where suddenly another 5 million people start watching flat earth videos. You know, people are definitely coming in more and more numbers, and therefore there's more and more material being made, because everyone has the same sort of reaction. They end up being compelled to tell others on the most effective ways by just putting a video together. So I mean, you chatted with Eric Dubay, did you not?
Yeah, just briefly. Right at first, when after I'd listened to one of his interviews and sent him a message saying, "Great, just to let you know, I'm here in Phuket." And then just recently on Beyond the Imaginary Curve, we had I was in a hangout with him as well. So that was the first time we'd really kind of discussed anything at length together.
And how did you find him?
How do I find him?
Yeah, I mean, Eric's a big name in flat Earth. It's one of those that, you know, to me and a lot of other people, Eric's a celebrity. You know, so to know that you've chatted with him, very few people have.
Okay. I think there's obviously an understanding we have just because we're foreigners in Thailand, and I know I've heard him speaking Thai, so I know he has a very good handle of the language. So he's he's had, I'm sure we've had very similar experiences as to fitting into the culture. And so I see, you know, he's obviously spent the time and effort to do that, because it doesn't just happen. You know, you've got to make the effort. So, yeah. And like all the people that I communicate with, or you know, we're all different people. We're all we've all got our quirks and what have you. So my thing is, I don't give a shit about the politics of who likes who and things like that. You know, it's we're all, you know, and the more people that get flat Earth, the more diversity you're going to have, and you're just going to have, just like anything else, you're going to have people that you like to listen to and people that you don't, people that irritate you. So yeah, that's just, we're all just people, and that's kind of part of the fun, because the whole thing is what would you call it, a collective of independent there's a phrase I've used before, but basically, you know, we've all got the same goal, but we're all coming from different perspectives. Literally, we've all got something to add and something, you know, some insight, whether people agree with it or not. You know, people say things, and you've got to think about it. And okay, they've usually got a reason for being or feeling a certain way, but you don't have to adopt that reason. You just gotta. It's just like everything else about flat Earth. Find out for yourself what doesn't affect you. Then don't let it affect you. Just find out what you can for your own truth, and things start to fall in place. So I feel that as a whole, the faces that have been around since the beginning seem to be getting into a more of another level, I'd say. Again, maybe going back to what I was saying earlier, this more just being more clear and more honest that there's stuff we don't know and possibly can't know. But at least that gives us that, at least we know that, and we're honest with ourselves, and now we can look at what that means. What does it mean to not know how we got here, where we are?
Say it. You know, you've got that scenario where it's not. This is probably a guy thing, but you'll pull up next to a guy on the street and say, "Do you know where XYZ is?" And they'll tell you and give you directions, even if they don't know, because it's so difficult for them to say, "I don't know." And with life, especially with a heliocentric belief in mind, most things have been figured out. You know, it's like that scene in Truman Show where they pull the map down and, you know, we've already figured it all out. It's already been figured out. You don't need to ask anything. And as you say, as soon as you come to flat Earth, you have to accept the fact that a lot of things, including mostly sky-based stuff, we don't know what it is. We haven't got the slightest idea.
Yeah. Sure. But that at least, and that's part of the thing with the heliocentric model, isn't it? Okay, we've reached the stars. We're at the pinnacle of our scientific exploration, and don't you dare question it, because, you know, it's been totally proven that we are absolutely correct about everything. And so it's frightening. It's frightening to kind of take that on at first. It is like shedding a shell, you know, like a lobster just shedding its shell and getting a new one. You've just got to
proper concepts, though. I mean, there's Joel Benjamin is a guy that recently started making a few videos on flat Earth, and I was following his chat and eventually went on his show. And his problem was that he immediately saw it as a psyop, because he'd been to the Flat Earth Society channel, and they've got the most poisonous image in flat Earth, which is an image of like that disc world rock that's sort of a flat top. But the problem with it isn't that. That's fine. It might even be like that for all I know. It's the backdrop. It's got a backdrop of it in space. And space is like, for me, space is, that they present us is just farcical. But what we know as space is just what's above us. And it is very much above us. You know, it's the sky. It's no longer, you know, I've shed that idea of it being all around us. And that image from the Flat Earth Society gives you that image that we are a rock. What is it? Going up at 10 meters per second or whatever it is, you know, to create the idea of gravity. And that's poison, because it makes you think of space. You're still in space, but on a flat disc.
excuse me. Yeah. It does make it. It does take a long time. Even for, I'm sure for any of us, there are still things we are going through that kind of we realize are, oh, okay, no, I was still fixated on that little bit, and I've got to put that aside. Yeah. It's it's an amazingly solidified image. It really is. It's quite incredible. Yeah.
I picked up on a comment in one of your videos. I can't remember which one it was. It was one. I think it was one that you were kind of talking in the same sort of vein that you're talking now, just sort of talking about not having any interest in the politics of flat Earth and getting the information out. But in the comments, not in the comments, in the description, you said the equinox proves nothing. What did you mean by that?
A bit like the whole kind of seeing a double sunset if you rise up. A globe head is going to just take that as their solid evidence that it has to be a sphere and blah blah blah. Yeah, it was mainly, it doesn't prove the size or the shape or the distance or anything like that. It just proves that it does what it does year after year. And again, what was it's the one time in the year that it is a day that is split into 12 and 12 hours, making a proper 24-hour day. So I know there are ball Earth excuses and reasons for why it doesn't, but we, for the rest of the year, the half the sphere is not lit properly because it's had this idea of a top and a bottom and all that stuff. So, yeah, my point really was that the people who were rushing out to film the equinox and see that it comes up, see that the sun comes up at the appointed time and the appointed heading. So, well, yeah, you're just going to do what's been done for hundreds of years and get the same results, and you're still going to say that's proof that we're on a spinning ball. But it's not.
As many flat earthers would say that the complete opposite, especially with the stars, you'd say, well, the fact that they're completely the same as they've always ever been, we've got lots and lots of records of them doing their thing over and over and over again. Forget Polaris, just the fact that they do their thing over and over again would be impossible in the heliocentric system. We should be long past these stars.
Yeah, sure. That, all the kind of those illogical arguments that many of it have been used as proof of the globe, but no, you think about it, it's not. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I figure if don't mind just going a little bit deeper on my whole kind of thing now is really just there is the globe with its 360 degrees. So I consider the globe as a 24-hour clock, an artificial clock, a three-dimensional clock. And fine, if you want to have global commerce and things like that, people basically communicating and getting on planes at the same time, then you have to have a fixed time and place. So yeah, the way I see it is the globe construct is obviously to formulate the globe, you've got to have this kind of start point and end point to make all your lines. So of course, everything else around the globe model is based on this reference point. Either it's GMT if you're talking about time, or the true north that they like to call it, etc. So they've had to have, and this is one of the problems where when people say, well, give us a flat Earth map. Well, what does it really look like? Is any map, because every single map is a representation of a certain aspect. So, it's never actually a true representation of the land sizes per se.
The map is not the territory.
Sorry?
The map is not the territory.
Yeah. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so basically you've got Earth time, which is the time that the sun takes to go around the Earth at any given day, or around above the Earth. But Earth time is also really its moon. The moon is what dictates the time for the essential things, for the harvests, for anything like that. ensures our survival. Watch the moon, and it will tell you when to do things. It tells you when the end of the year is. You know, I'm still not totally familiar with it myself, but it's
we'd all be running on a 28-day month, wouldn't we?
Well, yeah. So, okay, I suppose my point is that in a sense, the globe model is literally, it's just that it's an artificial, an imaginary thing. It really is, but it's kind of required for this modern day life where we are interconnected. So if you want to hop into that and, you know, like you've got to get on a plane and you've got to be there at a certain time, then you just have to obey those rules. You know, where the moon is at that time makes no odds to anyone. But how much are you going to let that rule your life? That's the thing. You know, we still have to hop in and out of the globe time. But really what we need to focus on is Earth time. And then we get retuned, we get, you know, because the moon is telling the time very regularly. The sun's doing its thing for the seasons. Possibly our stars, astrology, yeah? Star signs, horoscopes. Possibly, so, you know, the Earth, the sun and the moon are telling the time for the Earth and the people and the trees and the animals on Earth. The stars are telling our time. Yeah? Maybe the importance of being born under a particular star sign with Saturn here or Jupiter there or whatever is the most important thing in our lives. Maybe that's the secret. The stars. They never show the stars. They can't, you know, maybe only we see the stars. Yeah.
Locusts are trying to establish as we speak. They're figuring out how to get their DVRs and their cameras working all nicely together so they can figure out exactly that. But isn't that just an amazing question to be asking? You know, if you're a globehead now and you just tuned into this show and you heard that we were asking that question, wouldn't your mind just explode?
I don't know. It just seems a normal thing to be questioning, you know. But hey, yeah, it's difficult to remember how it was.
Are they just for us? In other words, as I look out, and I've said this many times, you know, when there's a really, really clear night, when it's really dark, the stars look like you could pluck them out of the air. Like they look like they're there. You know, not like hundreds of miles, like inches. That's what they look. Obviously, you get the same effect. You know, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper the darker and the longer you look. But ultimately speaking, they look very local. And should Globebusters send up that camera, I'm not a betting man, but I wouldn't want to be a betting man about what the result will be of that test. You know, will we still see them? I don't know. Do you?
No idea. But it appears that we can't. You know, it appears that, yeah, I mean, from what we see so far, you've got to be here to see them.
But wow, what an amazing thing to be saying. I mean, I did the last time I did this was with the sky, and you could even say it recently with the sun. You know, why is the sky blue? What is the sun? Can we still see the stars if we go up? I mean, this is pretty basic stuff, but we haven't got answers. You know, wow, more amazing time to live in.
True. It's very interesting times because it is a bit of a reset, isn't it? It's like, okay, back to square one, right? And you know, what would you say? It's up to you. That's it. Once you free yourself from the globe, anything is, you know, and you can take the real. It doesn't have to be airy fairy. You just take real physics, like the fact that frequency can separate the gases from water and burn them for, you know, thousands of degrees. There you go. There's your free energy for a fraction of the cost. Water, yeah. Or you can even, you know, the fact that water boils in a vacuum. You know, we then, it's great. That's what's great about flat Earth is you look at all the science that we, you know, maybe did or didn't know beforehand, and the whole thing with water just you change the pressure of the air that the water is in, and it bubbles away, releasing its gases, and you can just collect those gases, and there's your free fuel. But apparently these are two different. This is the physics department and the chemistry department, and so the two don't talk, and they've been, you know, they have this mental block. They can't see the potential, and then, you know, some garage scientist put some thing together where he's making flames from, you know, a couple of different ultrasound frequencies, and they're going, I don't get it. But this is
that's part of the trick, though, isn't it, to keep us dumbed down? That's why they split up the sciences.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that becomes apparent. I mean, that's it, isn't it? You know, I mean, I think a lot of the globe heads are genuinely, they've just come across flat Earth because it was on one of their YouTube suggestions, and it's like, what? No, they haven't gone through any other questioning of whether things are normal or just. I think we get this idea, the whole heliocentric, like you say, a heliocentric lifestyle or way of thinking is this kind of understanding that the politics, the commerce, and everything, society today is something that's naturally evolved, that we couldn't help. It's just the way we are, but we're also given this kind of pride at the same time. That and that kind of became apparent to me when I came to Thailand, was thinking that I was somehow superior because I was coming from a more developed culture. But boy, did I get knocked down a peg or two, which was great. Really good. That might not happen to a lot of people, and they don't get the chance or the opportunity to reflect on some of the situations they got into.
And it's a way of viewing it, because we've just had a really good smile about the fact that we know nothing, which is weird. But, you know, it's a kind of childlike wonder that you're left with. But for a lot of globe heads, they're left in a position where they want to be superior. They've studied this nonsense at length, and therefore they want to be able to say to somebody else, no, I understand that. You don't understand it. And especially in some of the debates I've seen of recent days, people will say that, well, I actually don't have an answer for that. Well, the globe head, I do have an answer. Therefore, that takes precedent, because most people think that's the answer. So therefore, there's a consensus. Therefore, that's right. It's like, you know, you've got to kind of shed those ideas. But it does raise an interesting question, which I hadn't actually thought of until now. So if you've got Jaron saying that if he had the keys to NASA, he would have the answers to these questions tomorrow. Do you think we are on, which path do you think we're on? Are we on the path that will eventually get the keys to NASA telling us the answers to these questions? Or are we actually, as we've just described and laughed about, kind of Philistines that we'll have to try and figure it all out for ourselves from scratch? Which do you think will end up happening?
That's the game. That's the game we're in. It's the game of life. Work it out. Work out the rules, you know?
Anybody's guess, I suppose. Good answer.
Yeah, we can't. No, we just, I think that's, it comes down to trusting your instincts. And sure, I mean, maybe there gets to a point, and I applaud it if there is, you know, a kind of physical exploration beyond what we know in all directions. I think there's a lot of focus on the South, but the way I see it now is, if you want to try to use, if you use globe thinking to do a flat Earth map, then you just start off with the usual thing at the center. You flatten that out. That's easy enough. Getting to the equator is easy enough. But the way I see it is then where you've got from the equator down to the south tapering off, then slap that on your flat map as like a transparency. So that, you know, the globe as a flat packed globe, like like you're going to make an origami globe, but it's flat as a transparency. So you've got as far as your radial lines until the equator. The problem they've got, though, is that those lines get wider and wider. So they had to get back to zero at the equator. This is, I think, a very important point where you're going, so that you're going back to zero. You're able to kind of then you taper the lines. So you've got your flat transparency. You've got from the North Pole to the equator as a kind of ring, but then anything else south, then you taper those what do you call them, coordinates, the longitudes and latitudes, taper them off. Everything that's missing is everything we don't know, that we haven't explored. They basically give us, you know, all those southern points. They can be 12 points, they can be 24 points in the south opposite the north. They can all come down and join in our heads as a globe.
A very small amount of land.
Yeah, Yeah, but this is it. You know, it's, I think in all directions there's a lot more to explore. I think they've just kind of sliced out bits of sea, because I was looking at the one of the people.
I've got to interrupt you there, because you just said something quite interesting, which is they sliced out bits of sea. Well, we don't know what they sliced out, do we? I had this conversation in the chat for Infinite Plane Society. Now, I'll preface this straight away by saying I do not believe there's a dome, right? I don't know, but I don't believe that there is. Either way, he was saying, well, the problem with the dome is that it encloses us and therefore eliminates the possibility of more land. And I said, well, that's not the case. You know, the way that, as you've just described, potentially there could be a lot more hidden by virtue of them cutting out quite a lot of landmass in the way the globe is structured. Well, therefore, let's just pretend there is an ice ring, just for the sake of this example. Again, I don't know, but within the ice ring, there's loads of places they could hide land. There could be loads. There could be a whole other continent we've no idea about. And we just kept within the flight paths and the shipping lanes, and we may not even see it. It's amazing to think what they might have hidden.
Absolutely, yeah. Even the pilots, they might see a maximum of, what, a couple of 100 miles, I don't know, from 30, 40,000 feet up. That's it. So, yeah, if they're following those flight plans, they wouldn't, vast stretches of earth or sea that they just would not see and, you know, would never go close to. So, yeah, what is it? There's an Arctic race for yachts, an Arctic yacht race, which apparently circumnavigates the Antarctic. But you go and look at the map, and they do this big wide ring apparently around it. It's all out of bounds, though. They wouldn't get near any of the coast. And really, that could just be a circle down. You could look at a Mercator map and just plonk that route there underneath all the continents, and it would fit, because it's just, as far as we can tell by the map, it's just ocean. Of course, yeah, it's a simple question. You know, where's it all come from? Where's the water come from? Comets. it's just. I love
that. That's great, isn't it? Comets.
But
it all. I've got to go through that. So it's all smashing into us, and let's pretend we buy the story of how the moon got here. So the moon has smashed into us, and we're a great big fiery rock, and then comets bring water.
Put out all the fires. But that all happened millions of years. It won't happen again. No. Just water, you know, rocks carrying water hurtling through. So it's quite funny, isn't it, when you really look back at, you know, how we were all bamboozled by this completely imaginary thing. I saw a wonderful video on YouTube. I can't remember the guy, but he just went through the history of science fiction, and it's just, there it is. It's just, you can see how it's been planted in the minds of generation after generation that, you know, we're going to the moon. Of course, it's something you'd want to do. You'd feel some sense of achievement if you could do that, but we're not supposed to go there. We can't, and that's the whole point, because once you realize you can't go up there, well, one thing for the people that are trying to control us, you know, if we work this out, that's really scary for them. It's like being stuck in a prison cell with the guy that did you over.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is why they're doubling down on the lie currently. You know, they're reacting quite a lot to things that flat earthers do, and it's because we're exposing their bit that makes the model correct and true, because they have touched the stars. They have touched the moon, and that's what makes their model real. It's like so long as they've got that under their belt, so long as that illusion is kept up, you know, the dogmatic argument of validation boy saying, well, we've never touched the stars only works in our little corner of the internet. Because if you go onto the street and say that, they'll just go, well, of course we have. You know, didn't they just come back with some dust from some comet recently? You know, that would be the attitude. In other words, yes, we very much do get to touch the stars, and we don't. Absolutely not. You know, that's such a stark contrast between, like I said earlier, with Bob, all of the team at Globebusters putting up a balloon to see if we can see the damn things when we go up. The other end of the spectrum is NASA saying, we've got this from 60 million miles away. You know, we've brought it back in this gel.
Yeah, it's quite fantastic. It's quite clever. It is. You got to give them that. Well, I was speaking to just an average Thai guy the other day, and just saying that I was talking about the whole flat Earth thing, and so he said, "Well, what's the conventional idea about the moon?" And I said, "Well, you know, Western science says that the moon reflects sunlight," and he said, "What? Because rocks don't reflect light like that." So that was it. I mean, it's just, yeah, because it just, that's what his senses told him.
Talking of senses and the moon, I mean, again, this is a conversation I've had quite a few times. The moon, as far as I'm concerned, is a sphere. You know, the libration is a giveaway. I'll happily stand corrected on that. I'm just saying, as far as my observations can tell, the moon is a sphere. The sun, difficult to say. What would be your attitude when it comes to the moon?
I don't, like I said, I think it's a very necessary and useful component of the natural world that we live in. It tells us the time. And maybe it's telling the time for all the other creatures and plants and things that they all, you know, maybe they get their information. You know, the sun is information. Sunlight is information. Moonlight is, I should imagine, information as well. Yes, we've got these kind of negative properties associated with the moon, but that's kind of essential. That's the yin yang, you know. We all hope to live in some kind of utopia, but that's never really going to happen. The whole point of being here is to you know, to understand these conflicts and these polarizations of just being in a physical existence. So, you know, the sun and the moon, I feel, do go together. They work in tandem. So a lot of people kind of have this negative idea about the moon, or it's doing some wicked things to us. I think it's just necessary.
Well, I mean, the reason I ask is a comment from somebody, I can't remember exactly what his YouTube name was, but it was something like "the Earth is a sphere, idiots," or something like that. And his comment was, "The moon is a sphere, and that's good enough for me." That was his attitude. And I took that quite seriously, because that's something I've had at work. Somebody came up to me and pointed at the moon and went, "That's a sphere, therefore we're obviously a sphere." So it's one where, well, the moon's a spherical object to me as well, but I don't. David Weiss's argument would be, you know, if you're in the middle of a forest and you look around and all you can see is trees, does that make you a tree? So Jeremy's argument is, if you've got a pool table and all of the balls on it are the celestial objects, does that mean that the table they're sat on is a spherical object? Well, of course, the answer is no to all of the above, but that's still in many people's mind, because the moon appears spherical.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, again, seeing that in the mathematical model as essential to have the globe of a certain volume, density, size, mass, to make it all work in a mathematical sense. So, yeah.
It's just hard to get somebody who's got those heliocentric ideas that out there is space, under there is space. To them, they are going to have that idea, because they're going to be the notion of us being this object in space, and therefore that's an object in space, and that's an object in space. It's really hard to get them to level it all out and say, well, yeah, that's just above us, and it's still potentially spherical, but it doesn't have any bearing on us. And it's getting that out of somebody's head that I find really difficult. And it doesn't matter what argument you put up to them. They've got a fantasy, and you can't show them things because it's already preconceived in their mind.
Yeah. It's like the whole light bulb joke, you know. How many flat Earth does it take to change a globe head? One, but the globe head must want to change, you know. It's
you can lead a horse to water and all that.
Right, yeah. Sure, but it is hard work. I mean, it was a very, very intense time. It really was. I mean, just for several weeks or months, just trying to weighing up. It really is like discarding a shell. It takes a lot of work. It does, and it is quite frightening. It is quite frightening.
Yeah, they're a very old pair of shoes that you've had since birth, and they're well worn in, and they're comfortable, and you don't really want to get rid of those shoes. But once you kick them off,
oh yeah, lovely.
your feet stink for a bit, but yeah, life's better.
Yeah, but even doing this first flat Earth video, it's like, wow, that was,
liberating.
Yeah, yeah, but it was frightening as well. I felt like a little naughty schoolboy, and yeah,
it's so true though. We are very much in defiance of government in terms of what we're saying. This is a government control structure that's been in place for a very, very long time. It's spanned from Christianity through to heliocentrism, and now here we are. We're still under the same control structure, and our masters are undoubtedly very displeased with us.
Yes, we're very, very naughty. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. We do have quite a few people in Flat Earth that come because they like the sort of rebel nature of being a Flat Earther. And more power to them. Great. If that's what tickles your fancy, then great.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, yeah, it's not. Yeah. Sticking it to the man, I suppose, but we're not always intentionally like that, are we? It's just want to be able to think freely and have that free thought. But
I mean, that's what they don't want.
No, of course,
what they don't want.
Yeah, but it's so clear how so many things go together, and yeah, it can be very tough. But of course, you still get that burning question. All right, I've sussed out flat Earth. Now what? It's like, what more is there to find out? Obviously, yeah. So more land, great. That would be superb. But what does it mean, really? Do we get any comfort from it? For me personally,
it's that childlike wonder, isn't it? That's what I get out of it for certain.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is just say hello to a few people in chat, if that's good with you. Okay. So, hello, Cathexis and David Weiss, YouTube, Teen Eldridge. How you doing all? Hope you're all having fun. Scroll up a little bit, see who else is in there if I can. Let me. There we go. Globebusters, or Mr. from Globebusters. Hello, Billy Sunday. Ex-Stranger XX, Stephen Chess. Hello, how you doing? Knowledge Scavenger, Paula, former guest. Hello.
Wow, lovely. Hi, everyone. Yeah.
We've got James Doherty, Marie. Thank you very much for being here. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. See if there's any questions in there for you, Nick, basically, is all I'm scrolling through.
Okay.
Hello, ODD Reality. Another former guest. Rob McKenzie. Hello, how you doing? John Watson. Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. Patricia. Hello. Flat Earth and Cap. I'll leave it there. If I haven't said hello to you, thank you very much for coming and saying hello. Don't know about you, Nick, but we may leave it there unless there's anything else that you wanted to particularly plug or add.
I would encourage people to go and check out. I suppose we're talking, the whole what's next after discovering flat Earth and realizing that we're a lot closer to. There's a lot more meaning to life. There's a purpose. I do find Superwan Green, this wonderful Thai woman I've interviewed before. She's got such a common sense way of putting things into perspective and helping us understand the crazy, crazy world that we're in and how it upsets us and how we can really, really, truly detach from it. So yeah, we're talking about flat Earth detaches us from the heliocentric thing, but there's more to go on in the head. And if anyone is wanting to kind of set a few questions straight about other things in their own mind, about dealing with life in general and Buddhist practices or principles, then yeah, Superwan Green, SUPAWAN GREEN. Just look for her on YouTube, and she's just done a whole new series of videos, The Four Noble Truths. Did you do an interview with her? I did, yeah. She because she's based in the UK, and she holds meditation and workshops there in Europe. But she comes to Thailand once or twice a year and has workshops here for foreigners and Thais. So
what I will do, Nick, is I will put the link to the interview you did with her in the description box so that people can actually subscribe to your channel. So
great.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, just be happy, you know.
Very, very wise words, Nick. And on that note,
Yeah.
I'll firstly say a massive thank you to all of the people who have joined us in this live audience and live chat. Thank you very much. As I said before, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment below. And also a massive thank you, of course, to Nick of Phuket Word. Thank you very much indeed for being here, Nick.
It's been great. Thanks a lot, Nathan.
It really is a pleasure. Thanks again. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.